Hello guys, welcome back to another Nioh 2 video, and today we're going to be taking a look at my Infernal Demon Hatchets build, and the name is representative of the fact that this build is using both fire as its core element and also makes use of the Red Demon armor set. The reason behind this is the core difference between this and my other hatchet build is previously I favoured a bit more tankiness at B agility, which made things a little bit harder on the key regeneration and also meaning that we would have to play in low stance. But after more time with the hatchets, I came to realise that if we were ever going to play an A agility build comfortably and light armor without too much worry about getting hit, then the hatchets is definitely the way to do it. Being a ranged playstyle, you spend far less time in the danger zone, and because this playstyle is so key hungry due to constant mobility, playing light armor A agility not only makes sense, but it also allows us to utilise high stance as a main stance, giving us access to both high stance secondary skills and Tenjin's high stance attack buff. We picked fire as a main element because I always run some form of element for confusion stacking anyway, and the Red Demon armor being a light armor offers the perfect skill synergy for a ranged hatchets build in terms of active skill, key consumption, key recovery speed, hefty melee damage, etc. So the fact that it comes with melee damage to scorched enemies makes it a no-brainer to run fire with this build, especially given it only takes one armor piece to also pick up one of my favourite 2-piece set bonuses, Blind on Scorch. And whilst this skill isn't going to break the game in any capacity, it does come in really handy, especially in a ranged playstyle, because it affects the enemy's ability to track you. So even if the enemy is swinging in your direction, you can dodge far easier without getting caught by those annoying OP tracking mechanics that enemies seem to have sometimes. It also has some very funny effects where even bosses will run off swinging at absolutely nothing. As mentioned earlier, this build makes it very easy to stack confusion through spells such as Water Shot, as well as being very fast and very mobile, and also very efficient in regards to key management. So before we go further into the playstyle and the hatchet specifically, let's go over the armor and stats you'll be needing. So with our Yasakani Magatama, we need 5 pieces of Red Demon for the 6-piece set bonus, coming from our secondary weapon, which is the Red Demon Spear, then 4 pieces of the Red Demon armor on our head, gloves, waist and legs. For our chest piece, that's where we have the Imakome's chest piece for the Blind on Scorch effect. Your hatchets are entirely optional, but I'm using the Urn Splitter hatchets because these are the ones I always use in my other builds, so they're already well upgraded, and they're also one of the few, if only, hatchets that come as part of a set, so they give a significant life increase on the 2-piece set bonus. For my ranged weapons, I'm using the Warrior of the West bow for a 2-piece life increase, and my rifle is just something that I already have well tempered from other builds, so this one is entirely optional. Now I'm also using the Toshi's Abacus accessory for the 90% faster movement speed on enemy killed. That makes mission running on this build extremely fun. I hate playing any build where I'm forced to drop this accessory because you really notice the difference, but fortunately most builds where I'm not using this, I'm also using a Kasha Soul Core in place of it. We're not using Kasha on this build, so I definitely want this accessory in here. So moving on to the stats, please keep in mind that many of my optimized stats, such as attack on all armor pieces, advancing storm on all armor pieces, and running speed on all armor pieces, are mostly coming from gold inheritables or traded inheritables. So if you don't know how to obtain these, please look up a guide on gold inheritables in Nioh 2, as well as Nioh 2 trading. These are not necessary for the build to be viable, but they are what you want to aim for if you want a fully optimized endgame build. So for our hatchets, we have burnt accumulation, all ablaze duration, which is very handy seeing as all ablaze is one of our 2 main attack buffs alongside Tenjin, imbue fire, which is not necessary if you're running with a fire talisman, which is recommended. I just have this because sometimes I'm lazy and can't be bothered to buff unless it's a serious encounter. Attack bonus magic or courage, as those 2 stats are what we have at 99, and we want attack bonus on the weapon over advancing storm damage, as this will give us a big attack increase that affects all of our skills rather than one skill. I've then inherited life drain on melee attack and active skill key damage with gold inheritables. The spear is just a set bonus stick, so it doesn't need to be optimized. On our ranged weapons, we want damage bonus agility to whatever is active, but if you want optimized stats for your ranged play, I like anything that affects weapon speed, movement speed whilst aiming, and ranged damage. So on our helmet, we have life increase, inherited advancing storm damage, key increase, other realm resistance, gold inherited running speed, gold inherited attack increase. On our chest, inherited advancing storm damage, An optional roll of defense based on Amrita gauge, damage taken at critical. Now this is highly recommended as it's a very significant roll for a single slot. 7.9% damage reduction at critical is nothing to scoff at, so there's not much in this slot that would be better than this. Life recovery on Amrita absorption. I would say this is an essential roll. Having this on your chest piece as well as your Yasakani Magatama gives you a huge consistent healing alongside extraction talisman, which we will be using. Then of course gold inherited running speed and gold inherited attack. On our gloves, advancing storm damage and attack increase. These can both be rolled natively, so no need for inheritables. Attack can roll on all gloves and skill damage can roll on light armor gloves, and these are light armor, so we have inherited running speed, tempered defense and gold inherited life and dodge key consumption. For our waist, running speed, dodge key consumption, key recovery bonus based on Amrita gauge, inherited advancing storm damage, gold inherited life and attack increase. For our boots, faster winded recovery, inherited advancing storm damage, dodge key consumption, running speed, gold inherited defense and attack increase. For our accessories, on our Toshi's Abacus we have defense bonus based on courage, key increase, burn accumulation and life increase. And on our Yasakani Magatama, key increase, defense bonus based on magic, again both courage and magic are 99 in this build, life recovery on Amrita absorption, and then we have saturation accumulation. Now we have this here for when we want to stack confusion by throwing out water shots. This just makes things a little bit easier, so you don't have to run this, it's just what I choose to do. So moving on to our spirit and soul cores, we're of course running boring old tension, but this is an element utilized build, so everything here synergizes with it alongside the OP attack buff that we get in high stance. For our cores, they're actually entirely optional as nothing here is essential to the build. I have Ippon Tatara because it serves as a great counter attack after a burst counter, doing a lot of key damage as well as a lot of synergistic damage coming from multiple modifiers. For example, yokai ability damage to scorched enemies and increased damage to yokai abilities following a burst counter in the shifting skill tree. I then run Gyuki for melee damage versus saturated enemies as it serves as both another damage modifier when throwing out water shots for confusion, but also allows me to have at least one element focused damage modifier active if we're facing an enemy that is resistant to fire. Next we're using the Kuroka Soul Core, which stat wise isn't very important. 7% fire damage isn't as good as it sounds, as elemental damage itself is actually extremely weak, but the skill aspect of this core is actually very good as an opener. If you want to send this out, it's quite slow, so that gives you time to follow up with a couple of water shots, and these will all land before the enemy even knows you're there, so you've got confusion propped before the engagement hasn't even started. So as an opener, it's a very good core. For my secondary spirit, again entirely optional, but I'm running Gyokuto for the dash key consumption, as this build is extremely mobile and some of our most used attacks require us to be at full sprint to even access them, such as advancing storm's back throw, which is done by facing directly away from an enemy and then holding square at full sprint, so it only works while sprinting. So seeing as we're in high stance and then throwing the hatchets in high stance is quite expensive in terms of key management, so being at full sprint on top of that is just more key cost, so I'm taking any reduction that I can get. For our Jutsu, the most important spells are going to be Water Shot and Extraction Talisman as well as Fire Talisman. You'll want these on your main bar as you'll be using all three of these in any major encounter, and Extraction Talisman will probably be active all the time in any situation for both damage and healing, coming from Tenjin's attack buff and life drain on Amrita absorption being what heals you. Next I carry a Lightning Talisman for the rare situations where something is completely immune to fire or water or both, such as Ryomen. I also take Rejuvenation Talisman for whenever I'm playing in multiplayer, as I have the upgrade to the magic tree that lets me extend this ability to allies, so it's just more of a support ability. And for ninjutsu, I always carry a quick change scroll for a bit of security if anything were to go wrong. So I'm at the point now with most builds where the only way I'm gonna die is if something happens that's out of my control, such as environmental issues preventing me from moving, or I just get wombo combo due to unfortunate RNG. So it's always wise to carry at least one of these with you for those kinds of situations. For our core stats, keep in mind I'm at max level, but I will explain what to take in order of priority for those who are not. Also keep in mind you should be forging all of your gear as opposed to wearing looted gear, as this will dramatically reduce the cost of stat requirements for that gear. First I take everything needed that is required by my Yasakani Magatama, my armor and my spirit guardian. Then I prioritize my agility, so with heavy armor builds trying to get B agility, or in this case with light armor A agility. I achieve this with 65 points in stamina and 9 points in strength. It's costing a bit more than usual with light armor builds because we are wearing that chest piece, which is actually medium armor. My main stat is magic, so I have that maxed out at 99. This is due to not only being a hatchet scaling stat, Magic also increases the effects of our magic spells and our spell capacity, so it will slightly increase our status build up and our spell duration, and we then want to max out courage, not only because it's another hatchet scaling stat, but for key regeneration. Now it's very important to note that my hatchets are dual scaled with magic and courage, which is why they do much more damage than if they were simply scaled with one stat. As both magic and courage are at 99 in this build, I can scale the hatchets with both of these stats at the same time. So I'll show you how to do that if you didn't know. You just head to the blacksmith, click remodel, make sure you have metalworking chisels, and what you're going to want to do is select the magic specialization, press triangle on it, then head down to the courage specialization, hit X on that. This will now scale the weapon with both of these stats, but keep in mind you only want to do this if you have both stats maxed out or of equal point allocation. If you're a lower level and you have more points in magic than courage, then only scale the weapon with magic until you have enough points to max out courage so that you can then dual scale the weapon. So for our hatchet skill tree, your main skill is going to be advancing storm. Boulder breaker is also a nice skill to serve as a counter attack whilst jumping backwards. It's also a transitional skill, meaning it works directly from a key pulse, and if you're a regular here, you know I love these type of skills as they synergize so well with the samurai skill tree key pulse modifiers. You definitely want to pick up all ablaze. This is your main buff that not only increases attack but also your movement speed and stacks with tension, so you'll be using this all the time. I suggest putting this on your least used stance, so in this case mid stance, as we're still using low stance for other things such as mountain climber and mountain climber 2. This is the ability you often see me using in footage that lets me jump over incoming attacks and also does really nice damage on the landing attack if you have the upgrade. Our mystic art is tireless throw, which prevents our thrown hatchets from suffering a distance penalty. Other skills you might want to pick up for high stance are dragonfly, which synergizes really nice with lethal barrage, as you can lock an enemy in place with dragonfly, run in and spam lethal barrage, and with the upgrade most things are going to die by that final hit. So I'm really tempted to make a build entirely around this playstyle, or just a close quarter hatchets build in general, as a lot of the close quarter skills are quite fun and I use them a lot even on my ranged hatchet builds. In the samurai tree, obviously make sure you have your flux upgrades, all of your key pulse modifiers, which honestly you should have no matter the build you're playing, especially purify yokai realm, heaven, which is a fantastic free attack buff just for purifying yokai realms. I use this on every single build to the point I will actively seek out yokai realms to purify them in the middle of a boss encounter. Nothing in the shifling tree is really essential to the build, so everything in there is optional. In the magic tree I recommend picking up damage boost courage and damage boost magic and attaching them to your advancing storm and boulder breaker skills. Finally, for our clan, we're using the Honda clan for the absurd 28% increase to skill damage and 80% chance to have damage halved at full health when your rep is maxed with this clan, which is very easy to do through donations. And that's pretty much the build, guys. If there's anything I forgot to mention, please let me know down in the comments and I'll do my best to reply to you directly. You're also welcome to mention anything else you'd like to see build wise in future videos. You can follow us over on Instagram and Twitch if that's your sort of thing. Just look up Xenoswarm on the relevant platforms, but links can also be found in the description. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up as that really helps me out and the video's reach. And if you've not done so already, consider subscribing for more Nioh 2 content coming soon. Okay guys, stay safe and take care.